Welcome back. Robert Craig, just an old man reading from his Bible. I am that old man, and this is the Bible I read from right here. It's the Holy Bible, King James Version. We've been going through Matthew's Gospel, and I think we're soon going to come to some places that kind of point up that the Gospels are not exactly identical in the sequence of events and also in the details, the minute details, but the essential events are going to be the same. We left off here in the early part of chapter 8, and Jesus is headed back. He's just healed a leper, and he's headed toward his base of operations, which is Capernaum here. Verse 5, chapter 8. And when Jesus was entered into Capernaum, there came unto him a centurion beseeching him. Now this is a man, he's part of the Roman occupation forces. He's over, the Greeks called him a centurion. The Hebrews would have called a man of such rank a captain of 100, because that's why the Greeks called him a centurion. He's over a century of men or subordinates, or a group of 100. So this centurion came to him, beseeching him, and he was beseeching him and saying, Lord, my servant lieth at home, sick of the palsy, grievously tormented. And Jesus saith unto him, I will come and heal him. The centurion answered and said, Lord, I am not worthy that thou shouldest come under my roof, but speak the word only, and my servant shall be healed. For I am a man under authority, having soldiers under me. And I say to this man, Go, and he goeth, and to another, Come, and he cometh, and to my servant, Do this, and he doeth it. When Jesus heard it, he marveled and said to them that followed, Verily I say unto you, I have not found so great faith, no, not in Israel. And I say unto you that many shall come from the east and west, and shall sit down with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But the children of the kingdom shall be cast out into outer darkness, and there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And Jesus said unto the centurion, Go thy way, and as thou hast believed, so be it done unto thee. And his servant was healed in the selfsame hour. I think when we saw this event last time around in another gospel, the centurion is going back to his house, and his men come out and tell him that his servant has recovered. And he says, when did this happen? When he knew, he realized it was at that moment when he was with Jesus. So he looked back and was able to verify that this had happened across distance, instantaneously. Now we come to verse 14. And when Jesus was come into Peter's house, he saw his wife's mother laid, or as we would say today, laid low, and sick of a fever. And he touched her hand, and the fever left her, and she arose and ministered unto them. Now, this is what I mean about the sequence of events. This event in Mark's gospel happened in chapter 1 and verse 28, but it was the same event, without question. And when the even was come, they brought unto him many that were possessed with devils, and he cast out the spirits with his word, and healed all that were sick, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by Isaiah the prophet, saying, Himself took our infirmities and our sicknesses. Now, when Jesus saw great multitudes about him, he gave commandment to depart unto the other side. And you're going to see similarities here with what we saw in Mark. And a certain scribe came and said unto him, Master, I will follow thee whithersoever thou goest. The scribe here thought he wanted to be a disciple. And Jesus saith unto him, The foxes have holes, and the birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man hath not where to lay his head. And another of his disciples said unto him, Lord, suffer me first to go and bury my father. But Jesus said unto him, Follow me, and let the dead bury their dead. And when he was entered into a ship, his disciples followed him, and behold, there arose a great tempest in the sea, insomuch that the ship was covered with waves, but he was asleep. And his disciples came to him and awoke him, saying, Lord, save us, we perish. And he saith unto them, Why are ye fearful, O ye of little faith? And he arose and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. But the men marveled, saying, What manner of man is this, that even the winds and the sea obey him? And now this is what we read about in Mark at the beginning of chapter 5. You're going to notice a difference. In Mark's gospel, it was one man. This one is two. That's one of the. But it is evident that this is the same event. When he was come to the other side, into the country of the Gergesenes, there met him two possessed with devils, whereas Mark said one, coming out of the tombs, exceeding fierce, so that no man might pass by that way. And behold, they cried out, saying, What have we to do with thee, Jesus, thou Son of God? Art thou come hither to torment us before the time? See, as fallen spirit beings, they understood that they had only punishment and judgment to look forward to at the end. But now they had expected to have free reign on the earth until that time, and now they're upset because they think that this is going to be untimely for them. They said to Jesus, Art thou come hither to torment us before the time? And there was a good way off from them an herd of many swine feeding. So the devils besought him, saying, If thou cast us out, suffer us to go away into the herd of swine. And he said unto them, Go. When they were come out, they went into the herd of swine, and behold, the whole herd of swine ran violently down a steep place into the sea, and perished in the waters. And they that kept them fled, and went their ways into the city, and told everything, and what was befallen to the possessed of the devils. And behold, the whole city came out to meet Jesus. And when they saw him, they besought him that he would depart out of their coasts. And he entered into a ship. This is chapter 9. He entered into a ship and passed over and came into his own city. And behold, they brought to him a man sick of the palsy, lying on a bed. And Jesus, seeing their faith, said unto the sick of the palsy, Son, be of good cheer, thy sins be forgiven thee. And behold, certain of the scribes said within themselves, This man blasphemeth. And Jesus, knowing their thoughts, said, Wherefore think ye evil in your hearts? For whether it is easier to say, Thy sins be forgiven thee, or to say, Arise and walk? But that ye may know that the Son of Man hath power on earth to forgive sins, then saith he to the sick of the palsy, Arise, take up thy bed, and go unto thine house. This was a confirmation of what he said in verse 2, when he said, Son, be of good cheer, thy sins be forgiven thee. So he gave him forgiveness of sins and then a healing. But the healing was a sign. The forgiveness of sins wasn't a sign because you can't see forgiveness. That's an invisible thing. I like to think of it as the kind of thing we see that confirms unseen things. Did you ever go to a science class where the teacher would take a piece of paper or cardboard or poster board or something, and he would sprinkle powdered iron, like iron filings, on top of the paper, and he would hold up a horseshoe magnet and he would say, This horseshoe magnet's surrounded by a magnetic field. You can't see it because it's invisible. Then he would put it underneath the paper, and lo and behold, he would make the iron filings dance around and form into the shape of that magnet. And I think that's kind of a good picture of what was going on here. You can't see forgiveness, but you can prove it by what you can see. And that part where he was able to take up his bed and walk away, yeah, I think that kind of proved everything. So now we come to verse 9. We see the calling of a certain tax collector. The one who wrote this account here, this gospel account. And as Jesus passed forth from thence, he saw a man named Matthew sitting at the receipt of custom, and he saith unto him, Follow me. And he arose and followed him. Now, what question should pop into your mind right at this point? You're in chapter 9. Matthew is writing all this afterwards, and you would think that a good bit of what he's writing here is stuff that he's witnessed with his own eyes. But you see right here in his own narrative, he reveals the fact that it's only at this point that he becomes a disciple. Isn't that interesting? So how does he know about all this stuff that happened before? Something to think about. Verse 10, And it came to pass, as Jesus sat at meat in the house, behold, many publicans and sinners came and sat down with him and his disciples. And when the Pharisees saw it, they said unto his disciples, Why eateth your master with publicans and sinners? A publican was the tax man of that day, and he was about as popular as a dog catcher. He was just not a popular official. He was a Jew that worked for the Roman government to collect tribute to be sent back to Rome. Verse 12, But when Jesus heard that, he said unto them, They that be whole need not a physician, but they that are sick. But doesn't that sort of make sense? People that are well don't go to the doctor's office and say, I feel great. Make me feel good. They don't need him. You go to the doctor when you need the doctor. And that's what he's talking about. He came to those that are in need. Now, all of these people were in need, but the scribes and Pharisees, uh, they don't realize their need. But the sinners and the publicans, that's the thing that kind of turns the key uh, with the Lord. They know their need, and they seek remedy. And the scribes and Pharisees don't seek remedy because they don't see their need. They think they're well. In verse 13, he continues on, "But go ye and learn what that meaneth. I would have mercy and not sacrifice, for I'm not come to call the righteous, but sinners to repentance." Verse 14, then came to him the disciples of John, saying, "Why do we and the Pharisees fast oft, but thy disciples fast not?" And that seems to be the way of it in that 3.5 years. The disciples didn't fast. And that will come into play if there's an account that was like in some of the other Gospels of after the Transfiguration, the disciples that were behind were unable to cast out a demon, a devil, because there are some that come out only with prayer and fasting. Verse 15, Jesus saith unto them, "Can the children of the bride chamber mourn as long as the bridegroom is with them?" He's talking about the disciples there, and he's the bridegroom. But the days will come when the bridegroom shall be taken from them, and then shall they fast. And that does seem to have been the pattern in the time that the little flock was in operation. Many decisions were made through fasting and prayer. Verse 16, here he describes the reason that I think that he picks these uneducated men for disciples rather than the scholars of the day, because the people that follow Jesus are going to have to accept something that's different from what they've been used to, and it just wouldn't be a good fit. But it's a good illustration here of a garment that needs patching, and you can't patch it with a new piece of cloth. No man putteth a piece of new cloth unto an old garment, for that which is put in to fill it up taketh from the garment. See, cloth tends to shrink, and it would pull the stitches. That's putting it pretty plainly, right? That part which is put in to fill it up taketh from the garment, and the rent is made worse. See, now patches usually put on a hole in cloth to improve it, but this will make it worse rather than better. Neither do men put new wine into old bottles, else the bottles break, and the wine runneth out, and the bottles perish. But they put new wine into new bottles, and both are preserved. And that was the custom of the day. A leather bottle would have, you'd have a new leather bottle, and you'd fill it with new wine, and they would age together. And everything would be fine. While he spake these things unto them, behold, there came a certain ruler and worshipped him, saying, My daughter is even now dead, but come and lay thy hand upon her, and she shall live. Well, he doesn't mention a name here, but this is another one of those details. This is Jairus' daughter, who is here just as a certain ruler, but we know from other places he's the ruler of a synagogue. And Jesus arose and followed him, and so did his disciples. And behold, a woman which was diseased with an issue of blood 12 years came behind him and touched the hem of his garment. For she said within herself, if I may but touch his garment, I shall be whole. But Jesus turned him about when he saw her. When he saw her, he said, daughter, be of good comfort, thy faith hath made thee whole. And the woman was made whole from that hour. And when Jesus came into the ruler's house and saw the minstrels and the people making a noise. Now remember, in Mark's gospel, they were called mourners. And I kind of went into that a little bit. There was a type of a person in those days that made their living as a professional mourner. And if people had enough wealth, they would hire people to come to their house when someone died, and they would wait until that person's soul departed, and then they would put on a show of great mourning. It was something that was status for the rich. But he calls, like with the woman who was healed and the man's name and all that. Matthew kind of skimps on the details, but here he does tell it like it is. He calls these people minstrels. These are professional performers. He said unto them, give place, for the maid is not dead, but sleepeth. And they laughed him to scorn. Now, what kind of a true mourner would do a thing like that at that kind of a time? No, these were not people with a vested interest in the death of this child. These were people, they were hired just to put on a show of mourning. But when the people were put forth, he went in and took her by the hand, and the maid arose. And the fame thereof, the fame hereof, went abroad into all that land. Now see, he omits the fact that Jesus spoke to her, spoke to the dead body, and commanded her to arise, and also commanded something would be given her to eat. And the fact that he told the parents to tell no man. But as it was in the other gospel, and the fame hereof went abroad into all the land. When Jesus, oh my, time flies when you're having fun. I'm sorry, but I just got so into it that I let time get away. So let's stop right here, and we'll just say, may the Lord bless this reading of His Holy Scripture. Thanks for watching.